In the second stage of IEM Katowice, Eternal Fire took on the all-new Falcons roster featuring Nico. And if you haven't been keeping up with the scene this season, Eternal Fire are easily one of the hottest teams out there. On the opening map Inferno, they lost a pretty close pistol round at the hands of Tessus and Magisk. However, on the second round, they got my attention by forcing with a ton of utility. They ended up opting for full utility belts and pistols rather than rifles or SMGs, and as a utility nerd, this got me pretty excited. Right out of spawn, Major spotted for any sort of mid-aggression or cross while his team worked their way up towards second mid. They quietly took control of apps and waited out the early utility that was thrown from Magisk. In the background, Major was lining up a front truck smoke while Woxic was getting ready to smoke Moto. Inside of apps, Xantares was able to hear Magisk eventually drop into pit, and that was their cue to go ahead and get this eco strat underway. Once it was time to go, Wicadia smoked off arch side from Boiler, and the others threw their smokes as well. After one nifty flash from Woxic, they were out towards lane. Meanwhile, Xantares was throwing an HE all the way down into pit. And right after Magisk ate that first one from Xantares, the rest of the EF boys slammed a couple more HEs into pit, completely nuking him out of this position. Major threw a couple of supporting flashes, and just like that, the trades went heavily in favor of EF, eventually winning the round with 4 players alive. You couldn't ask for a better result from a utility force, showing just how powerful nades in the CS2 can be when used properly. Now, before we jump into the server and break down everything that was thrown as a part of this execute, I want to thank today's sponsor, SkinsMonkey. But what's SkinsMonkey, you might ask? Well, it's an automated CS2 trading site that provides an instant way for you to get new skins, and all you have to do is select the old skins that you don't want anymore and grab some new ones from the monkey. They also have a 24/7 live support system and some amazing filter and selection features. But that's not all. You could get up to a free $5 when using code TACTICS on the site. And you could also get up to a 35% deposit bonus when using that same code. So don't miss out on this offer. Go ahead and click that link down in the description and check out SkinsMonkey today. Let's get back into the video. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started by talking about all the smokes thrown as a part of this execute. So starting off with Major smoke, this is a nice front truck smoke that leaves a gap here on the left side. And I believe this is by design to allow his teammates to push through this gap and take a surprising fight on anyone here on site, or anyone pushing through the Moto Smoke that's going to be landing that we're going to talk about here in a moment. Now, unfortunately, this smoke is very difficult to replicate since Major was using a custom view model to line up with. Now, this is the exact set pause coordinates from the demo that I watched, and this is exactly where he was standing. Unfortunately, there's not a very obvious position to line up with. However, I have found a way to replicate this smoke with the default view model. If you go right here on the left dot of this flower pot, get lined right up with it, you're then going to find this black dot alongside the wall, and you're going to line up the circular pin in the very center of your smoke grenade to where it's just below it. You're then going to do a nice simple left click throw, and that is the exact same smoke that Major threw. Now, I honestly cannot stand view model lineups, and I think most people don't like them either, so just after I show Woxic's utility set, I'm going to show a way to throw both this smoke and the Moto Smoke from one position in a much easier lineup. Alright, so now let's talk about Woxic's utility set. So he ended up going right here on the far edge of this balcony, right along the corner, and then while still crouched, he went up to this nice little mark, down to the S, stood up, and did a simple jump throw. Now this is a perfect Moto Smoke, although it does take a little while to land. I think this is by design because they still want this smoke to be down as they're taking sight. As you can see, it's landing pretty close to the center, and there are no gaps on either side. Since this does land a little bit later than some of the other utility coming in, by the time they've actually taken sight, it should still be up no problem at all, to where they can get into a good post-plant setup before anyone's able to cut them off and shoot at them from over here towards the library. Now just after Woxic threw his smoke, he dropped down into this position and did a nice left click throw towards the top of this door frame to flash his teammates out where they could take the fight out here on towards lane, and eventually just do a nice run throw with an HE to blast anyone set up here in pit. And finally, we'll talk about the smoke that Wicadia threw. It's a simple arch side smoke where you're just going to find this column, this pillar. There's no set lineup. You're just going to kind of crouch here and just take a few steps forward while crouching right at this pillar. And guess what? You've smoked off arch side, no problem whatsoever. All right, so let's talk about the easier variation of these two smokes that you can throw all by yourself. If you get a teammate to drop you an extra smoke right here next to this postcard stand, you're going to stand right here in the dead center of it and do a simple jump throw at the very top of this eye for a Moto Smoke. You're then going to crouch and aim just below this lantern and do a simple left click throw for a truck smoke. So I'll go ahead and throw these as quickly as I possibly can, and we're gonna take a look at how nicely these land. As you can see, within about half a second of each other, you're gonna have a nice perfect Moto Smoke, as well as this front truck smoke. Now, the only downside compared to the other one is you don't have this gap to end up peeking up through, but honestly, I prefer this since there's no chance of anyone peeking you as you're throwing those nice grenades for anyone set up here inside of pit. Alright, so after Major ended up throwing those smokes, he ran all the way up here and threw a couple of flashes to help his teammates out. So the first one, he just ended up standing back against this wall and did a simple left click throw to flash anyone out here in pit. It'll also catch players on sight. Just after that flash went off, as his teammates were moving up, he got into this corner and did a simple left click throw right here at this tree. Now the reason this is such a good flash is because not only does it get anyone that would be standing up here on the top of balcony, it also gets anyone under it. It's a 2-for-1 special and completely destroys anyone down here without hardly any time to react. The best part about it, it also gets this angle here on site. It also gets anyone holding back here. It gets pretty much all angles. It is definitely an Inferno God flash, but you do have to communicate that to your apps player because, hey, they are going to be able to get roasted by this thing. Alright, so let's talk about all the HEs that were thrown as a part of the execute as well. Obviously, for the ones that are back behind the smoke, it's pretty self-explanatory. Generally, I'll aim at this little mound just as a reference, or just over this top arch, and just do a nice little run, throw, and release. That should pop back here and destroy anyone set up in this position. So if you have a couple of people do that, you're almost always going to destroy someone in this position. Now, in the case of Eternal Fire, they actually had Centaurus earlier kind of go up into this spot and do a crouching, running throw here to where it banked off the side and did a little bit of extra chip damage onto Magisk, who was standing somewhere about here. He got hit pretty heavily, walked back there, and then those last 2 HEs came in behind the smoke and just completely obliterated him off of this position. Alright, so that pretty much covers all of the utility that was thrown as a part of this execute. It really wasn't all that complicated, but it was well timed, well executed, and just a beautiful case of good utility in Tier 1 professional Counter-Strike. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something new. If you enjoyed this style of breakdown, let me know down in the comments below, and we'll probably make a few more here in the coming weeks. Anyways, guys, I do want to thank all of my channel members on screen right now. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to do everything that I do every single day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.